What's going on, family? How is everybody doing? Hey, hope y'all are having a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful middle of the week. Saw some of you all earlier today for the Patreon show, so I hope you all are still having a wonderful, wonderful middle of the week. Listen, I might have to send a piece of equipment, this Rodecaster Pro 2. I might have to send that junk back. Something seems to have had it's quite a kerfuffle. So in any case, so just be aware of that might be a possibility. Whatever the old people say, whatever the case it may be. While you're there, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel while you're there. Don't just be a piece of furniture sitting over there. Please just try to help out a bit. Now, I want to, ladies and gentlemen, and if you have not, ladies and gentlemen, before I get in what I want to do, I always got to make it about you. If you have not picked up the ADOS Reparations Framework book, please do that. If you have not done that, please do that. Sales are coming along. But if you have not picked up your copy, why's my nose itching? If you have not picked up your copy, please make sure you do that. Now, listen, fam, you know, the thing about it is that I like to always go to the heart of the issue. I do not feel like, this is me talking, but I do not feel like you do a good service to your community, or if you are creating content towards advocacy or about ADOS, you do it a disservice if what you do is you just talk about the thing that's happening right now. If all you do is ride the wave, I think you are doing a disservice, to the people that you speak to. So I say all that to say, we have to look at not just the government shutdown, but we have to look at what makes everybody okay, or so many people okay with so many people suffering. What made everybody okay with Elon owning Twitter, X, formerly known as Twitter? What makes these things okay? What makes it okay in people's mind to erase ADOS history, to erase the image of the man with the whips on his back, who was a slave? What makes that okay? Because see, this isn't just a Trump thing. This is Trump pushing the boundaries of what he believes he can do because of how he has been emboldened by forces, many forces. A lot of those forces are not even white supremacist forces. They are forces at the top who are using the tool of white superiority, or the idea of white superiority, or in this case, flipping it on its head and calling white superiority white suppression. How did that happen? What was the propaganda that allowed this thing to take root and take hold? Right? Because this administration, when you look at the government shutdown and when you look at the big beautiful bill, this is nothing but, what do people call it? This is a kleptocracy right now. And I think a slaveocracy always morphs into a kleptocracy. So I'm not surprised by this at all. Like I always said, it was always going to end this way without transformative politics. And that was why we were pushing Obama. That was why we were pushing Kamala. And I'm going to talk about that book on Patreon at some point. But that was why we were pushing, because I knew, and many of you knew, not only do we win when the Democratic Party becomes transformative and more radical than it has been, but everybody wins because it becomes an actual party of the people, as opposed to what it is now, which is a Republican light party. So the people who are saying, oh my God, y'all cause Kamala to lose. No, we were trying to recreate a Democratic Party that did have meaning to people, that people could invest in, that people could feel excited about again. And they don't feel that anymore, right? So that's the direction that we were trying to go in, and we got blunted at every time we tried. In each direction we went, it was like a maze. Okay, fine. Now here we are. So right now we are at reverse racism, the gateway to white grievance politics. The one thing that the white right, this is not about white people, this is about a right-wing ideology. The one thing that they figured out, and this has always been the most effective ideology that capitalists have, right, is that kind of manipulation. And the one thing that they figured out is that the benefits that ADOS were getting was because of what they used to call this is a grievance industry. Every time somebody protests or something, they called it a grievance industry. This is a grievance industry. These Negroes, this is a grievance. We got to put down the grievance industry. That's what they kept saying. But at some point along the line, at some point in the juncture of this whole thing, they decided that instead of putting down the grievance industry, they were going to pick it up. And I can draw a line, I can draw a 30-year plus line of them deciding that, hey, we're going to simultaneously accuse them of creating a grievance industry while we try to co-opt their grievance industry. This is victimhood at a whole nother scale. Fam, this is unlike anything we have ever seen before. And I want to show you, I just want to take a little time because, we could be fighting about lineage. We could also be fighting and fighting about class. We could. There are good fights to be had there. But instead, you have people like this who come and they make it about something that it's not. Right? Now, the first thing, we'll get to the quote about Stephen Miller. The first, this is in the Financial Times. I just want to read to you. Stephen Miller, Donald Trump's prime minister, executes his plan to reshape America. Now, there's a few things you should know about Mr. Miller. First thing is this. When Stephen Miller took to the podium at the memorial for conservative activist Charlie Kirk this month, he issued a stark warning to left-wing forces he believes were responsible for the assassination. Now, first of all, he believes we don't know anything. There is no formidable in politics, in two-party politics, there is no formidable left-wing. There isn't. There's confusing that with identity politics, the way Democrats speak to us in terms of identity politics. That's not economic populism. That's not wealth. That's not rights. That's not any of the things even that white folk been asking for. But white folk get so confused about that. What they asking for, when somebody gives them something and say, hey, this is what you've been asking for. You've been asking for them Negroes to get kicked in the teeth, right? They be like, yeah, that'll fix it. They get confused. That's what happens. So he says, you have no idea the dragon, this was at the Kirk funeral, you have awakened, he said, addressing ideological enemies. You have no idea how determined we will be to save this civilization, save the West, to save the Republic, the dragon. And I said, I have a very good idea of the dragon that has been awoken. It's called the Grand Dragon of the KKK. I'm very clear on what the dragon looks like, right? But there's something... Whenever you are doing any kind of movement or movement work, there is a need for some kind of anger, righteous indignation. You Fannie Lou Haim, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. We have the best case of anyone for being sick and tired of being sick and tired. So there's a lot of righteous indignation in us for how we have been mistreated. The problem happens is that the white right does not have that. They are first and foremost white, and to the extent they have been mistreated, it's been by their own people, their own capitalists at the top. So the capitalists have to figure something out. Well, wait a minute, we doing this, and we're a kleptocracy, and we're taking all the money from the bottom, we're going to turn to the top. How do we do that? How do we take the money from them, the people in the middle, lower middle, and the poor? How do we take all the money from that and throw it to the top? How do we do that? Well, we have to create a racial grievance. We have to put that in whiteness somehow. We have to make white people the aggrieved people. We have to convince the right that they are the truly aggrieved people and not the people who come from slavery, sharecropping, a failed reconstruction, convict leasing, housing discrimination, redlining. We have to convince them that the real victims are not the people who come from that, but the real victims are people who got passed up for a job opportunity, even though it could have been for anything. People who have a whole bunch of other jobs and a whole bunch of other college slots lined up for them. No, you are the real victim. And it takes a lot of ineptitude, ignorance, and all kinds of things to convince somebody that people who have 400 years of victimization are not the real victims, that you are the real victims because you believe you got passed up for a job. The same way that people believe I believe I got passed up for a college slot because of some Negro. It was probably because somebody like your wife. It was the main beneficiaries of affirmative action are white women. But even if you thought it was a Negro, there are other colleges to go to. Like, that's nothing to get upset about. If you didn't get into Harvard, you can go to Yale, you can go to Princeton, you can go to Brown, you can go to Stanford. Like, what are you crying about? But they have created in the right wing, as part of their ideology, they have created a kind of victimhood, right? A perpetual victim, because you have to have an emotional component. You cannot have people up there at the Capitol and doing an insurrection and doing all these things without creating inside of that person and those people the feeling and the idea that they are being victimized. So that's why Stephen Miller can say, you have no idea how determined we will be. You have no idea the dragon you have awakened. We will save civilization, save the West. He's saying that we're going to stay white. And because there are less white people, not because, hey, you and I can agree that there's too much immigration, but not because those people are brown, but because we're talking about displacement in the labor market. We're talking about how a lot of people come here and want to become white and don't want to do anything else. They just want to assimilate into whiteness. There are a lot of reasons that we have problems with immigration. They're pointing to something that's, hey, when they talk about the end of the West, they mean the browning of things. They don't mean the same thing we mean. I think everybody has to, you gotta know that. You gotta know that that's not the same thing. We don't have a problem with the browning of anything. People who tell you it's not about race, I don't see race, I'm colorblind. Well, then tell you there ain't gonna be no more white man. It's like, wait a minute. Either you see color or you don't. You can't tell me on one hand you don't see color, and that color doesn't matter to you, right? You don't see color. And on the second, it's pretty soon not gonna be no more white folk. Well, wait a minute. You told me this was all about culture, and it was all about, now y'all off in the woods building your little white sanctuaries and stuff. Even if you try to get in, y'all saw that little white sanctuary they're building? Even if you try to get into the little white sanctuary, you can't if you're not white. But wait a minute, y'all told me this has nothing to do with that, and you love everybody, and it was all just about culture and being good Christians to one another, being good Christian folk. But now you're telling me I can't get into your little white thing in the woods. I don't want to. I don't want to carry water from a well or whatever y'all doing. But you're telling me now that I can't get into it if I'm not white. See, all of this stuff just goes to how colorblindness too is just a farce. It's just a way to get over it's just a way to get over on us. This is a farce. So when you look at people like Stephen Miller, you have to really look at what he's saying and why he's saying it and where is the money going. I always look at the money. The money's going to the top. This right here is the theatrics and the tool and the tactic to get the money to the top. How do you get money to the rich? Convince the white folk on the right that they are losing out to all these other people, especially Negroes. Just say us, even if it's white women mostly and Latinos and black immigrants, just say you're losing out to Negroes because, that's a historical internal driver that you can tweak that'll make people come alive. And, oh, no, we cannot have that because there's a hierarchy in this country and they've always been at the bottom and we are not going to have that. Oh, no, they will react. They will react to that. It is the creation of a white grievance industry. That's what we have. And that's what we're living through. That's how we got here. When you wonder how we got here, well, we have a president who is unpresidential and who put a thing up yesterday of Hakeem Jeffries wearing a sombrero. When you wonder how we have a vice president who went to an Ivy League school but spends his time online cussing and acting a fool all the time and just bringing all kinds of disrespect to the office. It wasn't, I have plenty of criticisms for Barack Obama. Those are policy criticisms. And I criticize him on how he used our culture to get us to vote for him. I have all my criticisms, but he did not ghettoize the White House. It took a white president and a white vice president to ghettoize or trailer parkize the White House. That didn't happen with us. Right? And it's popular amongst a group of people. It's popular among a petulant group of people. But I keep telling y'all, everything that they say about us is just projection. We don't have culture. We don't do this. That's all projection. You see everything. It's right here on the White House. The man faked fellatio. It's right. That ain't got nothing to do with us. But I just want to go back to how this grievance industry became a thing, how we got here. I want to just go back to that for a second. We don't have to spend all day here, but I want to just point out some things. In his remarks, we're talking still about Miller. In his remarks at the Kirk Memorial, Miller had harsh words for MAGA's enemies. You are nothing. There's the humanizing language again. You are wickedness, as if he's a believer in anything. You are jealousy. You are envy. You are hatred. You are nothing. That's how you get people emotionally worked up. Remember, if you are going to create a grievance industry, you can have righteous indignation or fake indignation. What this administration and the people who undergird it have done as a way of sending more money to rich people and undoing the New Deal and undoing the civil rights movement and undoing everything, labor movement, all of that. What the thing that they have used is that we are the oppressed. Us rich white people are the oppressed people because these people came from wealth. Those of you who are dealing with things in real life who are white, you did not come from wealth, but these people who are talking to you and talking to you as if they are one of you, they come from wealth. And if you don't come from wealth, you have more in common with an ADOS person than you have with any of them. But you can't see it because they're feeding you red meat. That's part of the you are a victim. Like this is the victim mentality of whiteness, right? This is a new ideology, the victimization. We are the real victims. Not we are the champions. We are the real victims. That's who we are. That's who we are, the real victims. Now I want you to see this real quick. From an early age, Miller, the son of Jewish Democrats who grew up in a wealthy neighborhood of Santa Monica, California, had strong views on immigration. So this man who's telling you we're going to fight back and we're going to do this, he comes from wealth. You see how they do? You come from money, just like Donald Trump comes from money. All these people who claim, listen, if you want to be populist, at least go find a populist who comes from middle class or who comes from poverty. Stop with this fake stuff. Even J.D. Vance wasn't poor like he said he was poor. That stuff, they be lying. Right? It wasn't the same thing when you dig into it. It wasn't the same thing and how they could only fall so far. Stop lying. So these are people, he comes from wealthy, Democratic, Jewish family. Talking to the people at the Charlie Kirk funeral about how we got to fight back and what we got to do and all this stuff. Child, you come from it. You come from the silver spoon all the way in your little mouth. What are we talking about? You have to just understand that there's a certain kind of propaganda that got us here. And who is so that you're not always fighting the thing itself. Yes, we understand what the government shutdown means and we understand the impact, but you have to understand how we get here because how we climb out of here has to do with the story that we tell because you have to tell a more convincing story. Now, you ain't got to lie the way they lie, but you have to tell a more convincing story. So Jason Islas was a friend who was friends with him in middle school, said the two of them shared an interest in space travel history and Frank Sinatra. Then one day in 8th grade, Miller told him the friendship was over. He gave a list of reasons Islas told the Financial Times, and my Latino heritage was on the list. It was a little sadistic. The man been who he is for a long time. But there's all these people who come from wealth and different things who are deciding this. It's almost like the regular people cannot sit down and decide, hey, whatever problems I have with Negroes or even other people who are here legally or whatever, the problems I have with other poor people, other middle class people, the real people who are taking away the things that I need to be happy and have a quality of life in this world are not them. I said the other day, you keep hearing folk talk about what about black on black crime? They keep throwing around bad data. Listen, do y'all know? Do these people know how many mass shootings we've had in like the last few days? It's not been us. And the thing about it is, how are you worried about quote unquote black on black crime or what ADOS are doing in these cities? And you're not worried about your child collecting all this ammo. How do you as a parent not see all these guns coming in your house or these guns leaving your house or all this ammo coming in your house? All these plans and stuff. How do you have friends and stuff? You don't know. Do you talk to them that they're not planning something? See, this is all projection. You are racist. You are who you believe us to be. It is a sad, sad state of affairs, but you are the weakest link. You are, because and it allows you. It is the thing that always allows you to get manipulated every time. It's so easy for the elite to manipulate you. Y'all got in here and really believed that Elon Musk, a billionaire, was just really fighting for populist economics. And this man who comes from another country then got into the government and took out a bunch of American jobs. And we don't know what he did. We don't know how he used it to train AI. We don't know anything about any of that stuff. Now we have all this stuff going on, and it's apparently a PDF ring with them Epstein file, and all that stuff is going on, and y'all are still talking about they don't want to continue the government because they're just trying to take care, they're just trying to deal with the illegals. Did you not see all the money that went from like everything from Medicaid? Did y'all not see that? And do y'all not know, white folk? Can y'all listen to me like on the right? Can y'all hear me? I know it's sometimes hard to hear past the Confederate flags and stuff, but y'all are on Medicaid too. Y'all in states like Louisiana, West Virginia, y'all are Kentucky, y'all are on it. You need this stuff too. I'm reading about all these rural hospitals about to close. Do y'all not understand this propaganda, this grievance that they fed you to make you believe that you are the aggrieved, that leads you to react just by punishing somebody else? Do y'all not understand that that's just a propaganda? And I need us to understand the propaganda too, because that's what you're fighting. You're just fighting this whole propaganda that they're putting out, and they're telling people and feeding people that they're aggrieved. And it always comes from people who have never been aggrieved. The grievance industry is always from people who never knew a grievance. Let me tell you, before I go to the Spencer, because we're not going to be here long today, but before I go to the Spencer thing, I want to just bring up one other thing real quick, because it is important. Do y'all remember when Obama got elected? The most absolutely milquetoast, center-right president, did nothing radical, moderate. Do y'all remember the Tea Party had a march? And do y'all remember, I will never forget this sign. And this sign really just goes to the psychology of too many white Americans in this country. Because of what some of you may believe that your ancestors have done, we can correct that, and they did do it. But we can correct that through policy. Child, ain't nobody looking to, we're not your ancestors. Ain't nobody looking to do nothing to you with no chain or no whip. We are not them. See, you do have guilt. And it's not guilt that we have given you. It is the guilt of what you do know about this country. And so you fear, right? And if you just were on the road towards justice, you wouldn't even have that thought in your mind no more. You would be so at peace with yourself if you were not such a scoundrel. You would be so at peace with yourself. You wouldn't have fears at night about Obama and white slavery. Child, that wasn't in Obama's had a whole white parent and white grandparents who he loved, and you had that sign up. You gotta be stupid. Or there's something inside of you that knows what your people have done, and you think that this is what I deserve. That I'm talking about psychologically deep inside of your nervous system and your consciousness that's there. But that didn't come from us. You had to project that onto Obama. Never did Obama present himself as someone who planned to do anything negative to anybody in this country in terms of like a slavery thing. That was not something that was ever projected. That was inside of you. You are experiencing your own projections. And the only way out of your weird projections is through a justice movement, which is our justice claim, or you're going to always have these dreams and nightmares that have nothing to do with us. And people will always be able to manipulate these little nightmares and things you have inside of you and your thoughts and your memories and what you've heard passed down. People will always be able to manipulate that and use that to create a white grievance industry that keeps you fighting us when we ain't did nothing to you. It's the other way around. And we have always sought solutions through politics. You don't go outside and one day and get wrestled down by Adolf's person. That's not what happens. We seek solutions through politics. Y'all the ones running outside just doing political violence. That's not what we're doing. We've always been the victims of political violence. We're not the perpetrators of it. You have to get yourselves together. You got to hit white folk. I'm talking about to the right. Heal thyself. This stuff that you believe ain't true. None of this stuff is true. And you just lean into propaganda as the people at the top just pick your pocket, and you turn around and you look at the person standing beside you who is another poor person or middle class person or lower middle class person who never put their hand in your pocket, and you swing on them. All because you have this like collective historical memory. Remember I told you memory is so important. You have this memory. Not your own memory, but a historical memory of something that was done to us that was never corrected. So you walk around expecting payback. Oh my God, I had somebody tell me, oh my God, I've never had a good experience with Negroes. I said, you don't even live around us. We have racial segregation in this country, in terms of housing. You don't live near us. So what are you talking about? You have really imagined this monster. And that is what is manipulated by people like a Kirk or by people like a Richard Spencer or by the racists. They manipulate that guilt. It's not a guilt because of anything you did. It's a guilt. It's a collective guilt because of what this country did and what it bestowed on you, and it has never been bestowed on us. We're not putting that guilt on you. It's there because that's just how life works. Like if you do something dirty, if you have a conscience and you do something dirty to somebody, the person doesn't have to come to you and say, hey, you did something dirty to me. Like if you are a decent person, you feel bad about it. And eventually, like even if you didn't want to rectify it at the time, you want to rectify it eventually. Now, most of us have these experiences in childhood where we realize, oh my God, what's this thing? It's a conscience. And then your parents say, yeah, you shouldn't have did that. Yeah, you was wrong. You got to now go over there and get a candy back, Yvette. Get a candy back. Whatever the case may be, that's normally when that happens. For you all, you're kind of late bloomers in terms of morals. And we try to help you because Elon never cared about you. And the idea that a super wealthy man who is a billionaire is pretending to be aggrieved and you agree with him that he too can be aggrieved means you've lost your mind. But let me just go quickly before we get out of here to one other thing. Brought it up a second ago. Richard Spencer was the same thing. The founder of alt-right presents racism in a chic new outfit. Yeah, child, they be dressing racism up, don't they? Driven by fear over the loss of white supremacy and white privilege, white nationalists believe that white identity should be the organizing principle of Western society. Gibson and Becker, 2019. The United States is a hub of white supremacy whose adherents fear that demographic changes will lead to the extermination of the white race and white culture. What is white culture? There's American culture. There's not white culture. Even though the U.S. remains 77% white, 8 years of Republican demagoguery against the U.S. first black president, Barack Obama, made it easier for some whites to be persuaded that the system is rigged against them. Now, the thing about that's so interesting, is that how can you in the Asian community, how can y'all have more wealth? But they make up a much smaller share of the population. So white folk, how can you have more wealth than everybody and still feel victimized? See, if you do the math and you don't get caught up in the foolishness, if you actually do the math and say, how can I have the most jobs? How can I have the most people ever who've been on the Supreme Court? How can I have the most people in Congress? How in the world can you say that? I don't have a history of oppression. I have a history, and to the extent that I've been oppressed in this country, it has come through my own people who own companies and businesses. How can that be your history and that be the data of your history and you still believe that somehow you are oppressed? There is something wrong with you. There is something wrong if you can be manipulated in that way. You are not well. I hate to be the one to tell you. Mama should have told you. Daddy should have told you. The government should have told you. But nobody really wants to tell you because your manipulation is somebody else's money. That's somebody else's cash. Somebody else does well. But listen, Growing up in a wealthy part of Dallas in 1990s, Spencer attended St. Mark's School in Texas, an elite all-boys prep school long associated with blue-blooded conservatism. Spencer's father, an ophthalmologist, did not care much about politics but voted Republican out of habit. Spencer was a friend with the only African-American student in his class, John Lewis. Lewis says he never thought of Spencer as a racist, but another classmate who asked not to be identified recalls Spencer making a bunch of conservative, racially laced comments that were objectionable even in high school. However, Spencer says he did not think much about race back then. After graduating high school, 1997, Spencer went to the University of Virginia, where he double majored in music and English and became deeply involved in avant-garde theater, trying out and discarding various radical ideologies like costume changes. See, I just go back to the first part. He comes from a wealthy community. White folk, do you ever ask yourself why most of the people who tell you that you are aggrieved come from money? I'm just asking, do you ever ask yourself why most of the people who come in and say, we're being oppressed? Do you ever ask yourself why those are wealthy people? Those are not even people like you. You have white folks that live in Rust Belt communities that have been absolutely, ravaged when all the companies left and everything. You have those people. To y'all, white folk who live in these communities and don't have a lot, do you ever ask yourself why your leaders are always rich? Do you ever ask yourself why the people who are always telling you what to believe and how to believe and who to hate, you ever wonder why all those people have money? Did that never occur to you that as a person, as a white person without money, you might want to be led by somebody without money, without wealth? Did it ever occur to you? You don't have to hate that person, but you would think that you would want somebody with a similar experience, who was similarly situated. What is your fixation with being led by these people, these wealthy racists? Did you ever stop to think that Elon Musk was not an aggrieved person? That he didn't, that was nothing for him, that the richest person did you ever think that the richest person in the world cannot be aggrieved? like that when he's complaining online about all this woke stuff, did you ever occur to you like he can buy and sell anything and anyone he wants? He doesn't, he's just manipulating you through this massive platform that keeps you fighting us as if we have something of yours when really this whole country has our reparations and refuse to pay. Did you ever stop and think about those sorts of things? Because those sorts of things are important. I remember a while back somebody put this up on Twitter, and probably the only time like I really went viral. And they said historical guilt is dumb. Your ancestors weren't villains. Don't apologize for them to people who hate you. And that was just so interesting because a lot of them were villains, right? Nobody can say like every white person, I would never, or even every conservative was a villain. I would never say that. And I would never encourage anybody else to say that. But to pretend that that there were no villains, right? To kind of make that's a lie. And that's sort of revisionist history. And I put up that amnesia and denial are the fuel that run America. And I do believe that white folks on the right would be better off if they just came to terms with history. I think they feel that there's some kind of loss there. No, the loss comes with you being on the side of people who couldn't care less about you. That's the loss. The loss comes on being on the side of people who never wanted the labor movement, never wanted the civil rights movement, never wanted the New Deal, don't care whether your child goes out and has to work a 40-hour week, don't care if you have a school. Those are the people who should be your enemy. Those are the people who you should despise, right? Not us. You should be happy to contribute whatever comes out of your check, and it wouldn't even be a lot. People are crazy, for reparations, so that we can live in community and communion. Don't you get tired of running around and being manipulated and having people say a bunch of stuff is not true, and you don't you get, white folk, don't you, on the right, white folk, don't y'all get tired? Don't y'all get tired of the white grievance industry? Don't you ever want to just have a country where you don't have all that? Don't you ever want to move from protest to progress, white folk? Do you ever think about the possibility of that? Do you ever think about a world in which that doesn't need, an America that doesn't need us to be on the bottom, an America that doesn't need racism. I mean, do you ever consider it? Right? Do you ever consider a country where you're not listening to Tucker Carlson, whose daddy apparently, allegedly, was part of the CIA? Do you ever think about why he's speaking for you? Do you ever understand that everything that he does, good or bad, is just part of a money grab? And this is a group of people who they can never have too much money. You ever think about that? Have you ever, for once, thought about what your life would be like if you were invested in justice and not grievance? Fake grievance, fraudulent grievance. Have you ever thought about what that life would look like? Have you ever thought about what a life where you was truly what you talk about, where everything was merit-based? Right? Because that's what affirmative action was truly about. It was about, hey, you have to give us an opportunity. It was never about we get a slot just cause you got a slot, just cause you Negro. No, we never had quotas. Backy, we never had quotas. But I think we should have had quotas. But do you ever stop and think about that? Affirmative action was supposed to be about us, but it really ended up being about everybody. But it was supposed to be, because we were such a racialized caste, people had decided, and we have evidence of this, that they were not going to give us a job, especially a good job. And so you have to give us a chance. You have to give Negroes a shot. That's what it's about. And you can't tell me you don't agree, like, with, you can't even, listen, white folks can't even, on the right especially, can't even tell me nothing. Because it's obvious to me that you don't believe in meritocracy anyway, because nobody in the Trump administration is qualified. So you can't come to me now and say, listen, I disagree with affirmative action. I believe in meritocracy. No, you don't. Everything about the Trump administration tells me that you just want everything back. You just want everything given to you. Because you believe that you believe that the white people are this right-wing ideology, not white people in general, but the right-wing ideology believes that white people are the inheritors of America and therefore deserve everything. You never wanted to compete with me. It was never about getting the best person for the job. It was always about, I deserve this job because I'm white and you are not. How dare you come in here and behave as if you are me and I am you? That's it. There's nobody in the Trump administration who's there because they're good at what they do. Except maybe taking orders, but they're not good at that position. It's not a meritocracy. So don't tell me you agree with meritocracy. It's a losing kind of culture. It's a loser culture. But I'm here to tell you can come out of it. You ain't got to stay stuck in that loser culture. You don't have to stay stuck in this grievance culture where you just try to flip the moral burden because you hate feeling like the villain. And so you want to feel like the victim, and you're so desperate to be a victim. Oh, everything. We the ones have to deal with y'all attacking us every day. Show me a police report. You don't live near us. Show me a police report. Are you getting attacked anywhere, anytime, any place? Most people get harmed by people who look like them, who are them. We live in the same community. Show me a police report of you getting harmed by somebody. No, you have to. There's a grievance industry on the right that creates these fake narratives of grievances that do not exist so that they can manipulate white folks on the right and manipulate them against the rest of America, including ADOS, and say you all have been victimized, you've been victimized, and you deserve way more than you got in this life. And I'm not saying you don't, but I'm saying the people who took it from you don't look like us. They don't look like ADOS. They look like Elon. They look like Trump. They don't look like us. So at a certain point, you have to go and look at the real villain. And you have a problem because race is so core to what you do. You have a problem looking at the real villain because the real villain looks like you. And you've been so racialized, you have a hard time doing that. It's so crazy because during the labor movement, they still, with all the racism that the labor movement had, and even they were trying to protect their jobs for themselves. They didn't really want Negroes to have nothing a lot of times. Even they could look at the head of a company and say, that rich guy is trying to steal from us. We have gotten a white right in this country that is so propagandized that they can't even do that part. They can't even do what they did in the early to late 1900s. They can't even do what they did in the labor movement. They are so propagandized that white is right that they cannot see that all that money is flowing to the top. And the people who are closing your rural hospitals, are not ADOS. It's people who look just like you. It's people who have been telling you that we're the enemy. And it's people that are telling you the whole problem is anti-white racism. And those are the people who are about to clean your clock. It's not us. And white folk on the right, if y'all don't get your propaganda together and try to figure out what propaganda is, you about to have a hell of a time. It's not just us. We're going to be harmed. We're always harmed. And we're going to have to find our way through it. And that's what movement work is about. But, child, y'all love to claim that y'all are under siege. Somebody's coming to get you. You just always have the wrong monster. And you always avoid, you have to, it's kind of like, it's kind of like what I told everybody during the beginning of this movement. You can't look at something that you feel may have been individual, like an individual slight. Even if you believe in your heart of hearts that you lost a job to somebody because they were filling the quota. That's not what happened. But even in your heart of hearts, you believe it. Whether or not you are suffering from oppression is a structural thing. That is a structural analysis, right? And we have enough data that shows that white people in general, as a group, are not racially oppressed. That doesn't mean that there are not problems, significant problems, in terms of labor, in terms of AI, in terms of how much people get paid. Labor, the cost of labor has not increased since the 80s. Right? The cost of the CEO pay has increased exponentially. Those are your problems. When you look and you're not making enough money, you don't have enough life, those are your problems. You should stop looking in our direction and you should start looking at who is actually to blame. And that is my advice for you. You should leave this victim mentality alone. You should leave white grievance politics alone. And you should start looking, the same thing I told ADOS when we started this movement, start looking at what the data says. And the data says that the people who are taking the bulk of the money are the people at the very top. The people who are out here spending and keeping the economy going right now are the people at the very top. That's who you should look to. And the people who are telling you to look to ADOS or look to anybody else, they'll tell you, look, those people are the ones picketing your pocket. The easiest way to picket somebody's pocket is to just distract them. Ooh, look, a bunny rabbit. And then just take all the money out your pocket. So, we need the people on the right, who I know some of y'all are so propagandized, y'all ain't gonna never come out of it. But the white right, we need some of y'all to kind of wake up a little bit, shake yourself loose. Shake yourself loose a little bit, please. Y'all just make me think like, it's kind of like they make you think how, you read the Bible, you meet like man went to sleep, but you never see where he woke up. And I sometimes wonder if he woke up because like y'all are this is just too much to believe. How can you believe that you are victimized as a racial group just because there's a lot of people coming in? Like that's not the key to the victimization in terms of immigration is too many because it's displacement. It's not just because white identity is going to be lost. What is that? Because y'all told me you was colorblind. I just get confused. Because they go back and forth. They colorblind one day and I don't see color. And the next day, the white ain't gonna be no more white people. I thought you told me. They go around spouting that king all the time. Color, not the skin. Now, King said, not the color of your skin, but the content of your character. They say that line all the time. And then all of a sudden they switch up and say, we're not gonna have no more white folk because it's too many. Well, wait a minute. You see, it was too much marriage, and your children are an abomination. Well, hold on, y'all told me y'all didn't see none of that. I'm so confused. I don't know what's going on. Y'all don't know really whether to wind your butts or scratch your watch. I'm confused, and that lets you know that the whole scheme that they're using in terms of having the conversation or trying to have the conversation that they're trying to have is just wholly illegitimate. That's what it tells you. This is a wholly illegitimate kind of like weird scheme that they're trying to have, and it doesn't make any sense, and it's propaganda, and they're eating the hook, line, and sinker, and part of it is because of who owns these social networks, and they're not regulated. It's a whole lot of stuff. But we need an end to the white grievance and grievance industry and the victim mentality. You are not a victim. And this, you are not a racial victim, and to the extent that you have been victimized, it's been by your brethren and sistren. So I will leave it at that, fam. I will see y'all next time. If you want to subscribe to Patreon, it's patreon.com/ycarnell. I'm also up at Substack. Most of the stuff up there now does not have a paywall, so you can feel free to go there as well. I'll probably be putting some more stuff up this week. But yeah, we got to, this white victimhood is at all-time proportion. We got to get that out of here. Okay, I'll talk to y'all later, fam. Please keep it easy breezy. Please don't bother nobody. Please don't let nobody bother you. And I'll see y'all next time.